Hello YouTube family, James Green, short series Shenanigans. So in today's episode we're going to be talking about the Holdridge Radii cutter. Recently acquired one of these from All Industrial Tool Supply. I've been looking for these for a while, or looking at them for a while. I know other YouTube contributors have them and they've picked them up used. This one is actually brand new and it's a newer model one. I have been spying one, spying them out, looking them out on eBay, shopping them around, looking around. They are not cheap, but I will say this: what they're designed for and what they do, they are a phenomenal tool. Now, I will point out some differences in this newer model versus the older ones. Now, this is the 3S. This only goes up to do a 3-inch diameter radii. So anything bigger, they have bigger models. But I will point out what I noticed between ones that are out there and then versus this one, some improvements that I've noticed. So as you notice, it comes in a really good hard plastic carrying case. So kind of a little bit of a side note here before I get going into it. They do off, because it comes with 3 different size tools that have the carbide tips. Now they do offer some that have the DNMG insert holders. Now depending on which model you have, this one takes 1/2-inch toolbars. The next size bigger, that'll go up to 6-inch, takes the 5/8 diameter toolbars. So I was calling to inquire the information on there and actually got a hold of Mr. Holdridge himself. So it was pretty interesting to hear the older gentleman, and I've got their names written down on there on the paper, but it was kind of interesting when I called the company to inquire about it and the cost of it, that they make them to order, and they make them. Since I already have those types of inserts and I use it in other tooling, I opted to go ahead and make my own toolbars. I'll show you those. It was, for me, cost prohibitive. Now, if you don't have the ability to, or you don't feel confident enough, then by all means you can contact them. Their information is in here. They don't have an internet site. This is old school company. They cast their own parts. They make all this stuff. So it's old school American tool manufacturing, and really super great guys. So when you get it, you'll notice it's got the old classic, parts for the 3S and 3D. So these are for the 3-inch models, standard, and then you have deluxe. It's pretty simple here. They have a picture of it, and they have some other information in here that's in the bottom. Matter of fact, I'll dig it out and show you. But let me bring you up close and give you a little bit of a close-up here of what is actually in it. And I've already done some modification and adding to. So, alright. So, within the container itself, so I've already added a couple items. I've made a couple of my own tool bits. Okay, the holder ones. I've made a couple of them. And just poked them down in there. Also made a cutout for a toolbar. So, the way this is a universal fit it to your own lathe. Okay. So depending on your lathe, and this is actually for from 8-inch up to 13-inch lathes, okay, is the way this is designed to work. Again, it'll only do up to a 3-inch diameter radius. Make sure you guys bring it up here just a little closer. Alright. So, as you can see, what came in the kit is these basic toolbars. And these are carbide. I checked them. Matter of fact, in the process of learning how to use it, these chip out really easy. And of course, you have to go to your carbide grinder and sharpen your bits. So it's not just high-speed tooling. So it comes with, you have room in here for other tools. This is the tool holder that you put your bit in. Now, if you'll notice, there's a specific angle on the bottom on each side. You can see where I've kind of already bumped it when I was grinding, but that's so when you set your table on your grinder, on your carbide grinder, it's already set up for the angle that's correct. Now, there's a flat spot on the top, and that locates it, and then this actually sets it at the correct angle for each side. Okay. It comes with its 3 basic Allen wrenches, the sizes that you need, which are 1/8 inch, 3/16 and 5/16. Okay, now the directions on here are a little bit, if you've never messed with one of these, and I will go into detail in a separate video on how to set up, but they basically tell you here, and it, again, depending on your level of understanding of how to make a radii, it can be confusing, but you know me, I like to simplify things. Basically what you're supposed to do is you use this, which is a 1/2 inch, it's hard in the ground, and it's got a hole for your depth mic. Okay, you bring your cutter in there, this is all laid out here, and then you figure, you know, for example, if you're going to do, we'll just keep it simple, let's say you're going to do a 1/2 inch round ball, and you just need half of that as your radius. Once you get your 0 point here, because they tell you, okay, you'll add a half, which it, excuse me, from the back of here to 0, okay, which your 0 point here, which, and I'll explain that in the video, is a 1/2 inch. So let's say you needed to add another you had to add a 1/4 inch to it, so that when you cut it, you're making a 1/2 inch radius ball. Again, I don't want to, you know, try to confuse you guys. It's easier to show you, and that'll be a whole separate video. So that's what that bar is for. There's room in here for other holders and items. As you can see, I've already made a cut in here, and I'll explain what I did. So very well made, solid item. And you can see the insert that I've got in there. I've been cutting some 304 stainless. All right, and one of my tool made bars, homemade insert bars, working great. So the way it's set up is you can actually mount this, depending on your machine, a couple of ways. Now this plate is intended to slide into your compound. Okay, you pull your tool post off and you slide this in. So depending on your machine, like for mine, this is too small, okay? But I didn't want to mount this directly to my compound because I was going to be doing several operations. So you can do that. You can mount it directly, but keep in mind, you're going to have to figure out what your tool height is when you go to set it, because you're going to have to build a set of shims or grind, or end up grinding a piece of block that you put in there to get this set at the exact correct height every time you go in there. Okay, so you know, the first time you set it up, it'll be a little difficult, it'll be a little challenging, but it'll be worth it. So what I opted to do rather than do that was quick change tool post. Oh, they're very, very common. I happen to have a piece of I've got some old lathe tooling, tool steel laying around. Now I ground this, had mill scale on it. Now I took and cut the end off that had the tool on it, because I've got a bunch of this laying around. I wanted good solid material. I didn't want anything soft, because you got to remember, you're not taking heavy cuts, but still when you get out there, you don't want anything to flex. You want it to be as stiff as possible. So I had some of this laying around, really stout material. I threw it on the surface grinder. I wasn't going for any particular dimension. I just wanted it square and flat and smooth. So slapped it in my tool holder here. I happen to have a 1-inch tool holder. It's a Dorian. This is actually a this will actually fit a BXA, the Dorian part, because I always have people ask. The Dorian part number is D30BXA-1-100. Now you can make your own tool holders. I always have people ask, because 1-inch tool holders for the BXA are not common. Dorian does make them, or you can do like I do, and I make my own. This one I just happened to end up with in a trade from someone. But anyway, so I wanted the ability to be able to go in and fine-tune the height adjustment. And I will say this, because of how it is, I'm actually going to have to make a little bit longer stud for this. But I still have enough in there to hold everything, and you lock it in. That's just how I chose to do it for my machine. And like I said, and I'll show you another video. But this is a phenomenal piece of equipment. If you need to make radiuses, this is definitely the way to go. There's other videos and stuff out there on the internet, and I thought about building one of those, but there's a lot involved, and depending on how much you want to use it and how you want to be able to change. For me, because in building a lot of stuff, I like the ability to be able to switch, pull the whole tool off and switch out, and I can go back to my standard tooling, move my compound where I need to, and do some other tooling. So if you're making an item that requires more than just this, and if you've pulled your compound and your tool post off completely, it's a real big changeover. Now if all you're doing is just making a bunch of, you know, items with just a round piece on the end, and you know, you've already done all your other tooling ahead of time, again, depending on your setup, I thought this was a very smart way to do it for me, and I'll show you the projects that I got going on. This makes it handy to where you can switch from this tool to another tool. Again, depending on your projects and what you got going on. For example, I'll give you guys a preview. So I had someone ask me to make some of these. Now, this is a cast part, unknown type of material. I believe it's a window mount for something, but these are a cast item. Smaller diameter in here than it is out here, and even these aren't perfectly cylindrical even when you measure them. Again, it's a cast part. My understanding is these break easy because the cast material, and as you can see, they oxidize. So they're like, hey, can you make us some out of 304 stainless? Ta-da! It took the hardest part of this was getting the tool set up to begin with, getting it all figured out, and just using it for the first time, understanding. And it's just like doing anything. Getting your tool set up for the first time to work on the machine, that was the real challenge. But once you figured out your tool height, and it's always the prep, and then but once it's set up and you understand how to go through your different processes to create the part, they're really handy. And so I will say this, if you don't already know, 304 stainless is very difficult to work with. You have to go very slow and meticulous. You don't take deep cuts. Even if you're doing aluminum with this, you have to be careful because cutting at an odd angle and the way the tool is setting out, you can cause things to break. Now, what I was talking about earlier was this tool newer is designed because you can it's for doing a radii, both concave and convex. So we made a ball. Let's say we needed to cut a part. So we made the male portion. Let's say, for example, we needed to make the female portion. Okay. Well, at that point, you go beyond from countersinking the tool to the 0 point, and I'll discuss this in another video, to where your tool goes, let's call the tool's coming from this side, so with the 0 point, so anything from this point on back, we're going to create a ball. So anything from the 0 point forward, you're going to create the socket. So we'll go plus or past the 0 point. And so depending on how you determine, it's simple. It's really simple, and like I said, some people, I always try to pull the difficult math out of it and make it simple in layman's terms, because that's just, you know, honestly, I function better that way. And I know depending on where you're at in the world, sometimes it's easier for me to show you and that way rather than to throw a bunch of math numbers out there. You know, we all learn differently. But anyway, one thing I did mention was there's an improvement here. So when your tool gets out, and even when you're using the shorter tools, you have to worry about chatter. Now, chatter on any material, regardless of what it is, you have to play with the RPM and then how fast you're moving the tool through. You are going to get some chatter, and it's unnerving at times. You're like, oh my gosh. But depending on what it is, you leave enough material on the end so when you're polishing down using your file to finish, kind of, especially on stainless because it's difficult, don't try to turn your finished diameter. Leave yourself room to come in with a file and polishing stuff to come down to get your final dimension. It works better that way. Ask me how I know. Playing around with it, that's one of the things you learn. It's plus every machine is going to have a little bit of flex and give, and you know, a tool, it wants to dive because everything is out there so far. And so when we're talking about that, let's say your tool is sticking out real far, you're trying to make the socket, they have actually done an improvement to the tool. And so what it is here, you'll notice this part, this is actually a brace here, okay? And so it's actually a cast part. Now since they actually cast all their own stuff when they make the radii cutters, which is interesting. So for them, just casting of their part was pretty easy. So what they've done here is, this is just as advertised. You actually have inside here, if I was using a longer tool, which I'm not, and I've already got this set and I want to pull it out, but you actually have in here, you can see where you fasten this in there, and that supports the tool. So when you're using the longer toolbars, okay, you get your depth. And really this is going to be used for when you're cutting the sockets. This helps support the tool when it's setting out further. Okay. Loosen this up a little bit. There we go. So as your tool is, it's not only held back here, but it's being held out here as well. So depending on how far out you're sticking, and what type of radius you're making, and I guess if you wanted to make even a longer tool than this, because let's say you're making a really big socket, you could make your own tooling, but there again it has a flat on the top and it supports the tool. So you're not only clamped in the back here, but you're also supported here and here, and so that's going to give more support for the tool. I haven't had the need to use this yet. So, but when I do, I will definitely talk to you guys about it on video. I was very impressed with the completeness of the kit and everything that came in it. What I will show you here is, and I've put them underneath. I did make a cutout in the box here for my toolbar that I made. Okay, so when I'm done, this will get removed from the tool post holder, and it'll just, I cut the foam out and put it right back in. And I'm also going to make one more tool holder after this. And I'm just going to put them in here. There's plenty of room. There's foam. So this just lifts up. And what I did, so I wouldn't lose the nomenclature for it, is I slid it down here in the bottom. Okay. So if you want to keep extra things or notes for future reference, so they don't get lost, you can actually throw them under the bottom there. So it actually comes with an additional price sheet. Now, the contact information is at the bottom of the information down here. They're actually in Gardenia, California, and they're Holdridge Manufacturing Company. So when I called, I actually ended up speaking with Paul Holdridge. And he said his younger brother Ellery, which I'm guessing these gentlemen are up there in years, really super nice, super fantastic. So they have a lot of other items that aren't shown or included that can be used with this, and they do show some list. I would presume these are list prices here. So depending on how long this video is on the internet, again this is in December of 2016, these prices are going to vary. So if you have any questions, you can call them at area code 310-329-3700, and they are in California, so it's Pacific Standard Time US. So there's some information on there. So if you get one of these and you're needing some additional parts, or let's say you got a used one online somewhere and you need some replacement parts, you can get it from them. Now they do offer, and they show it on here, they have 1/2 inch and 5/8 tooling. These are the DNMG style insert holders. Now these are 300 series, and these are the larger ones. These actually hold the 400 series. So like I said, I called to find out and inquire about. They give some specifics on here, and they gave some prices for what they wanted and as fast as I need it. And I thought, you know what, I can actually make that. For me, it was pretty simple and straightforward, so I opted to go ahead and make my own tooling, because it's just some 1/2 inch round stock, and you saw it is pretty cut and dry. But like I said, they're very nice people. Call them, talk to them. Very nice. So anyway, that's the tool. That's what we got. And like I said, all industrial. You guys, you hooked us up again with something awesome. That guy have fantastic. Let me move my camera back here. Fantastic stuff. You know, so if you guys have any questions in regards to, you want to know more about this, they sell all the different sizes, the radii cutters, the inserts, whatever you need, they've got it. Holler at them, www.allindustrial.com. Call them, talk to them. And so, again, they offer great tools. And so we're going to be doing some videos and showing you guys some projects, and I'll talk more in depth about how I went about determining how to use the piece of equipment. Again, everybody learns it a different way, and I'm going to show you what I found out. I watched several videos on the internet trying to determine how to set the tool up properly, and so I learned a lot. Again, depending on what material you're doing and your machine, the amount of, here's something else too, it will let you know, because of the way the tool is working and everything, it will let you know if there is play in your gibs on your compound, your carriage, everything, the cross slide. So I will say this, when you get ready to use it, make sure, you might want to maybe tighten them up a little bit more than normal, you know, just for that, because you're not going to be moving them a whole lot. So you want it to make it as rigid as possible, because anytime you stack tooling and you have something out there, you definitely want to. So I know on my machine, for purposes, I just took a screwdriver and I could tighten up the gibs on my compound, or my compound just a little bit. And you know, because I like it to where it was smooth and easy to move, tighten it up just a little bit. So I took that little bit of a play out, because a little bit of play here further out on the end makes a big difference, trust me. That's how I ended up chipping that first tool. I was like, oh, wait a minute, maybe I should go ahead and tighten up all my gibs more than I would normally use them. Again, you don't want to lock it down, but you definitely want it snug, because that little bit of give adds up from your carriage all the way up to your cross slide and even in your compound. So that, half a thou adds up once you're out here on the end. You got like 2 or 3 thou worth of drop in a tool chips, and you're like, oh, wait a minute, I need to tighten all that up. So that was definitely a learning point. Again, great tool, great product. Thank you again to Jeff and Jim at All Industrial Tool Supply. You guys are awesome. They're really nice people, and small company here in the U.S. out in California there. Give them a call, look them up. And so I hope you guys have enjoyed it. If you have any questions, comment below, click the like button, thumbs up. We love constructive comments. And if you guys have any questions, my public email address, eagledustoff37@gmail.com. If you guys have any questions, please ask me. I'll answer them to the best of my ability. And if you guys want to know more about the tooling and what's available for it, contact All Industrial. They'll be able to answer your questions. And I'm on social media at eagledustoff37@gmail.com and at eagledustoff37 on Instagram and Twitter. You guys, thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you guys have any questions, holler at me, get a hold of me. Thank you for watching. And kind of as a little bit of a side note here on the end, so last week this episode was going to be videoed, and we had a little bit of a surprise. So since we got a little room on the end of the video here, I'll go ahead and talk about it. So it was a little bit of a scare. So we had a power outage. All right. I don't know if it's in camera, but over there behind the light switch on the wall, we were sitting here a little over a week ago, and the wife and I, power went out. I thought, well, it went out in the neighborhood. Opened up the garage door, lights were on. Went in the house, lights were on. The power was out in the master bedroom, master bathroom. Well, we got to looking, couldn't find anything obvious. I've talked about it on social media out there on Facebook. But the electrician got here that following Monday and discovered in the wall over there above that light switch, because how the power is run through the house, and I know everyone's going to comment, but long story short, there was the gauge wire that was originally run in the house was the wrong gauge for that short run. I'm thinking this was one of those 5 o'clock Friday, we got to get the job done so we can go home. And yes, it was electrically inspected, and yes, everything was passed by the electrical. And this house was built back in 2003 in this neighborhood. These houses, there was a couple of hundred of them built in this area within a 6-month time frame. So I would imagine the inspector probably just handed the contractor his license, his here, put it on when you're done. I don't know, but the breaker was too big for the wire that was installed. Bottom line, we got it fixed. It was repaired. Luckily didn't burn the house down, but I did save the wire to show you guys and gals. And so these were the pieces, and they've since replaced all new wiring. They went through the panel, double checked. Everything has new breakers. So here's what's left of. This is the wire that actually burned. Actually, it goes like this. So yeah, right here where that burned, there was actually a staple. Okay, it had been too tight, and this wire, gauge wire, is actually too small for what everything else in the house was. This was 12 gauge wire. It's supposed, or correction, it's 14 gauge wire, 14.2. It's supposed to be 12.2. And the breaker, it was on a 30 amp breaker, which is a no-no. And these other wires here were other circuits to where they gang tied everything together in the light switch box. So the wire was too light, carried too much, didn't carry enough amperage to even trip a 30 amp breaker. Should have been a 15 or a 20, or actually should have been a 20. So got 20 amp breaker in there. We have the correct gauge wire. We have 12 gauge wire in the entire areas where they had to replace all this stuff. So yes, science and technology to where stuff, luckily it didn't burn the 2x4 and burn the house down, so we got lucky. So that's why I haven't put up any videos in a week or so. Recovering from that, getting that fixed, and then of course, you know, I'm always taking care of my family stuff first and come out here in the garage and do stuff for you guys and gals. I got a lot of stuff coming up, so over the next several days, this is a Sunday Shenanigans episode, so I'm going to post more stuff up, and we're getting close to Christmas here, 2016, so I'm going to be posting lots of stuff up for the holidays, so you guys have stuff to watch. Again, thank you to all my subscribers. Again, shout out to American Rotary, you guys. If you're interested in a rotary phase converter, look them up. It's worth it, trust me. You can talk to them. Some people say, oh, I'd rather put a VFD. You're actually losing power, and you know, there's a lot of other pros and cons. Me personally, you're money ahead going with a rotary phase converter. They have a lifetime warranty on their parts. You have questions, call and talk to them. It's definitely worth it. Thanks again, All Industrial Tool Supply. You guys are awesome. Take care of yourself and take care of your family, because remember, at the end of the day, you and your family is all you got. Until next time, get out in the garage, play with some material, maybe buy one of these, radii cutters. Make a lot of neat stuff with it. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.